Okay. Just gonna get set up here a little bit. Okay. Just gonna get set up a little bit. Okay. I am going to get started in just a couple minutes. Okay. All right, you guys, this is, give me one more second here. All right, this is a follow-up to the first video that I posted with what happened to me and my COVID-19 sort of like journey thus far. I got sick on March the 10th. That was day one, which was it also happened to be my birthday. So I had actually taken the day off work and I was just gonna, spend the day just on my own, doing my thing, and that was the first day that I got sick. That night I developed the fever, and then I had actually been taking Tylenol and Advil, and I was mixing them stupidly. Not for the fever, but for my menstrual cramps that I get really, really bad because I have endometriosis. So I was just popping whatever I could find, whatever was like next to my bed. And on the third day of this whole thing, which was Friday the 13th, I remember it well, I woke up that morning feeling amazing. I was like, I'm healed. I was so happy. I was like, everything's great. I was so excited. I went back to work remotely, and that night I just collapsed with the weirdest symptoms ever, which was I felt like I was drunk. I collapsed on my bed. My head was spinning. My fever spiked to 101.5. My heart was racing, and I just felt like I was drunk. I had not drank. I wasn't drinking. So that was the first night. I called the paramedics. They came out. They stayed with me. They took my vitals. And I was still not at death's door. They said, okay, your heart rate isn't normal, your temperature isn't normal, but mostly your heart rate isn't normal. But I was like, listen, if I can wait this out at home and not have to go to the hospital, I would prefer to do that. So they stayed with me just for a little bit. This was before the enforced quarantine stuff. But anyway, then my heart rate lowered to like 120-ish, and my temperature had actually gone up to 101.8, but I decided to stay home. So then I just slept it out. The next day I just had regular, my regular symptoms that I had been having, which was fever and the dry cough and like a little bit of a chest tightness. So then I just, I wrote it out. And then 8 days in, this is the update where 8 days in was when I started developing breathing crap, like really weird breathing symptoms. And that was when the second day or the second time that was really bad, where I called the paramedics again, because I really thought that I just wasn't able to breathe. Like, it felt like my lungs were so expanded already that I couldn't take any more breaths in. So I was just like basically taking sips of air in, and I was just like, I never had asthma, so I have two brothers that do have asthma, so I only know what it looks like from the outside. I've never had asthma or anything to compare it to. So then, so at that point, I went to the hospital because I was like, this is crazy. Like, symptoms are not going down, they're getting worse, and now there's all this breathing crap going on. So I went to the hospital, and they wheeled me in, and they just kind of like put me in the corner, and then they just kind of forgot about me. They were swamped, you guys. They had so much going on, and this was even like, yeah. So anyway, they had so much going on. There was a woman to my right who was having similar symptoms, and I could hear them talking, and they were saying, listen, we're going to go talk to her, and we're going to see if she would be willing to not get tested. And I didn't know if they were talking about me or the woman next to me. They were apparently talking to the woman next to me, and for me, they were saying that they just were not going to test me. They gave me a chest x-ray, and they ruled out pneumonia, so it wasn't pneumonia. However, they did give me this. They gave me this, which is this. And my diagnosis is chest tightness and suspected COVID-19 virus infection. Suspected, okay? They said, they're going to keep the tests for those who are above the age range and to help inform their decision on whether or not to actually admit someone. They did not admit me. They sent me home and they said, just write it out. They said all of your symptoms and the time frame matches what we've been seeing for COVID-19. But to this day, I haven't had a test. And they released me from the hospital on, when was this? The 19th. And today's the 25th. So, I went home and I just wrote out the worst of it. And now I am telling you that I'm pretty much 100% healed. It took me, a few more days, but I feel so good right now, you guys. And I feel so healed, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so thankful that I was able to, write it out and that nothing worse happened to me. So I'm just hoping that my story will maybe help somebody out there who is having weird symptoms and doesn't know what's going on and is not able to get tested. There are a lot of people right now who are not able to get tested and have been having symptoms. They don't know if they're just having a cough or a flu or what's going on. So I'm just letting you know what happened, and hopefully maybe that will help inform your decision on whether or not to even, to go to the hospital or whatever the case may be. Right now in New York, Governor Cuomo is doing an amazing job of just being a leader and just really keeping all of us informed on what's going on. And I'm really, really grateful for that, because it's been helping me, sitting here in quarantine and just to stay abreast of what's going on here in New York. Because there are a lot of people that are just, that live in 1 or 2 person households. We don't really know what's going on, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously we're checking the news and all that, but it's just nice to know that there's one person who's kind of, leading the helm for us. Because I was watching some videos in Florida where they're just arguing and having a really kind of hard time of it. So I'm glad that it looks like we're kind of like united, and we have somebody that's helping us out here, trying to get people together to help each other. So yeah, that's what's going on here in New York. I would love to hear from you. If you guys, I don't know where you are in the world, but I'd love to hear your story and what's kind of like going on with you. So yeah. All right, so I want to talk about something here, actually. I want to talk about. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. I want to talk about. I want to talk about love and fear. Okay. Um, I wanted to talk about fear, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about love as well because I don't just only want it just to be about fear. And what I really want to talk about, and I feel like it's really pertinent for this time, is fear in general, okay? But I want to talk about religious fear. So I want to talk about, in my case, and in my particular story, I grew up in a very strict, restrictive household. Not only were we religious in the sense that we were part of the Children of God, or the family, as it was called. It had like multiple names, but I know it as the family because the Children of God was like the 1970s era, and then in the 80s and the 90s they changed the name to the family, which is like when I was born. So not only was I born into that, my parents joined the group when they were 18, and then they had me when they were like 21, early 20s or whatever, and in 1980. And not only that, but my dad was, as my mom called him, a man of God, meaning that he liked to see himself as a pastor. Which is interesting because one of the tenets of the Children of God, or of the family, is that they saw themselves as counterculture. They saw themselves as iconoclasts who were like breaking the established norm, supposedly. So they were like, instead of supposedly being strict Christian, it started out as them being this like free love focused group. So they really preached love, whether it was sexual love, that, you know, sex is not a sin. They really preach that. So when I was like growing up, I was just like a kid, you know, and having to sit down and have dad read to us like the letters as they were known, which was the teachings of the founder. It was just kind of weird because it's like, okay, like, what do you want me to have sex with? Who exactly? Like, I'm just a freaking kid. Why are you reading this stuff to me? Anyway, so not only was there this big institution of the family, which was very strict, did not believe in contact with the outside world, did not believe in listening to system music, didn't believe in reading books, but my dad was also very strict within that group. So it was sort of like a cult within a cult. He did not let us, we weren't allowed to, even in some cases, associate with other kids or other family members because they weren't strict enough for him. So it was kind of like a very, I would say, lonely upbringing. But yeah, that's another story. But what I really want to talk about is something that my dad used to control us for 21 years plus, because I left when I was 21 in 2001. But I was still trying to be good and still reading the Mo letters, and it took me another like 4 or 5 years to really untwist and work through a lot of the indoctrination that I had grown up with. But I would just want to talk about one of the things that my dad used to really drill into us, and he would every day we used to have devotions in the morning, which is where we all sat down and Dad would read to us or a letter. Sometimes we'd pass them a letter around. Sometimes it was the parts of the Bible as well, but for the most part, it's mostly letters. But then he would usually go off and he would start talking, and this could last anywhere from 1 hour to maybe sometimes even the whole day. Sometimes he used to wake us up in the middle of the night and round us up because he had like I like to call it that he had some sort of mental disorder where sometimes it would hit him and he would be consumed with rage, and he would just gather us all up like as if we had done something wrong, that there was sin in the camp, which is a Mo letter called Sin in the Camp, that we had done something wrong, and that he would lecture us very like angrily, like basically yelling at us and shouting at us for like hours and hours in the middle of the night, and we just had to sit there and listen to him. But one of the things he was always saying was that Jesus is coming back at any time. And I know that there are a lot of other Christians that believe this, but with my dad, he would use it to control us in the sense that, okay, why do you want to go to school? Why do you want to have friends? Why do you even want to associate with the system, which the system was like the secular world outside of the family? Why do you want to do anything except for be a witness, be a missionary for this faith before Jesus comes back? So all of us were kind of born into this militaristic, like this army, where our mission was to, the way that my parents said it was that we were supposed to show God's love to the world, right? But the interesting thing is that there was no love for us. There was no love for any of us kids, of which there were 10 kids and mom and dad. So we were basically just the chess pieces or the soldiers that would get beaten and whipped and punished if we didn't show enough love, or if we weren't enough of like, if we weren't, what's the word? If we weren't good examples of God's love. So he used to use that to strike fear into us and to just make us be in our best behavior. And his whole thing was, you're going to have to take an account before God. So Jesus is going to come back in the clouds of heaven, and then you're going to have to sit in front of him, and he's going to judge you. And each person is going to step up in front of God's throne, or Jesus in this case's throne. He's going to be sitting there on the throne, and you're going to have to step up one by one, and everybody's going to see you stepping up to Jesus's throne to get judged. And when this happens, are you going to be ashamed of everything that everything that you've done, the way that you were a soldier for him? Or is he gonna be like, hey, Susan, you did such a great job, now here's your reward. You get to like be a lieutenant in my army, or you get to be some high-ranking official, or are you just gonna be relegated to cleaning toilets? And when you're a kid, when you're like a little kid, you're drummed, this is drummed into you until you're 21 years old, every day. And it's just like, even though it's weird because it's like a part of you questions it, a part of you is like, what if it isn't true? What if all this is a lie? But what if it is? What if it is, And then it's like, that really stops you, that in conjunction with a lot of other tactics as well. But that really stops you in your tracks, and you're just like, I'm just going to push through, I'm going to be a good soldier, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to go singing in the streets, I'm going to pass out the pamphlets, I'm going to be a good missionary for Jesus, because Jesus is going to come back any day now. My dad literally messaged me yesterday using that same tactic, telling me that what's the point of all of this anyway, because Jesus is going to come back any day now. He's still saying that, you guys, and I've been gone for I've been out of the family now for about, like I said, I left when I was 21, but it took me like another 5 years to get out of all the indoctrination. So I would say that I have 15 years now of like being a non-family member, like just being a secular person, or trying to be, really, really trying to be. And after the 5 years of really getting out of the indoctrination, there was another 5 years of time where it was like I was so depressed, and it was really hard for me to plan anything long term or do anything for myself long term, because that's why the only thing that I did was singing in the subway. Even after I left home, I continued to sing in the subway because that's all I knew, and I didn't have an impetus or an urge inside to do anything. And then it took me a while to realize that the reason why I didn't want to do anything is because deep down inside I felt like the world was going to end anyway and Jesus was going to come back anyway. So why should I go to school? Why should I develop myself in any way? Why should I make an effort to show my true self to the world if Jesus is going to come back anyway and all this is going to be for naught? So that's something that I still fight against on a daily basis, to really put faith and trust and love in myself and not just be this fake person that is trying to be an example of something that you actually are not inside. And I think that there's a lot of that, just in general, of people that are fake. And I just really try not to do that. I am fake, I get that. Everybody is fake sometimes, but I think I really make an effort to be sincere and really try to live life. Even if something happens, something bad should happen, I have this feeling where it's like, okay, as soon as I start to do something that I want to do, something bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen, somebody's gonna die, it's because of that like programming, that brainwashing. And I don't know if you guys have ever felt like that or had any of those thoughts. If you have, please let me know. I'm also going to go on Instagram Live and do a live video there and see if anybody has this, if it's just, not just me. So yeah, so that's the religious fear stuff that I wanted to talk about. And then on the other hand, I want to talk about love. It took me a really long time to believe and accept love, or to even be okay with thinking about the concept of love, just because the Mo-letters were so steeped in talking about love, love, love. All you need is love. Love is the only thing that matters. Having a job, having an income, you don't need any of that stuff. Like, my parents didn't have any of that stuff. They just wanted us to go singing in the streets and singing in the subway to make a buck, to make money, to be basically at the mercy of other people. And in exchange, we showed them an image of God's love, of a family singing together and being one singing family together and smiling, and like really just, guys, if we didn't smile, we would get punished when we got home. So it was 100% fake. And every single day I would wish for someone to save me, but guess what? Nobody saved me. I ended up having to save myself, but that's another story. But what I want to say is that it took me a really long time to be okay with even thinking about the concept of love. And what I basically came up with, and it was just this image that came to me, and I'm 100% okay with this image. And the image was of nature expressing itself. For rich, for poor, for black, for white, for somebody that's going to take advantage of it, for somebody that's going to raze it to the ground, someone that's going to burn it, for bad people, for good people, for everyone. It is what it is. It is displaying itself from a molecular level to an exterior level, meaning that like the composition of what it is what is being displayed. It can't hide it. It just displays that. And to me, that is the ultimate expression of love, where I don't just mean that you're like, walking around like just with like an uncouth, uncultured person. What I mean is that there's a big fear there was a big fear of me to display my true self to the world, because I had some things that were so precious in me, and those things I had to grow up hiding them from my parents because they were considered evil, or because any sort of self-expression was considered evil. Really, you really just had to be a soldier for God in God's army, and that was it. So I was really scared to show the precious parts of myself, the precious intimate parts of myself. So when you can be to be vulnerable with others and really display that and be intimate, allow yourself to be intimate with others, that is love to me. Not this fake display, not this fake thing where it's like you have this big smile on your face because you have some guy behind you that's threatening to beat you if you don't smile. So that's not love. That's fake. That's really, really fake. So yeah, to me, it's can you show your true self to the world? And that's one of the reasons why I just decided to wear my hair natural, because that is my real self. And I'm not saying that I'm never going to wear wigs, I'm never going to wear hair extensions, and I'm never going to straighten my hair again. But this is just a phase that I'm going through right now, where I'm being okay with who I really am, whether that's an obese person, overweight, or whatever the case may be. Can you love the world enough to show your true self to them? And that's really where Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi and non-violent, protests are genius, because it's love. It really is. It's true love, because the way that it's true love is that you are just displaying courage to march through with what you think is right and who you are, and you're not meeting the aggressors at their level. When you meet an aggressor at their level and fight them on their playing field with their tactics, that's hate. That's the ultimate display of hate, because you will never ever win. You will never ever win that way. You have to be able to just endure the beatings and endure the torment and just march through and be like, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm gonna just go straight as an arrow through to achieve my target, and this is it. This is me, this is who I am. And that to me is the ultimate display of love. And I'm sorry if I didn't express it in a nice enough way. I'm still learning how to really describe it, because it's a concept that I feel and that I know internally, because I've internalized it so much and I've thought about it so much. So I really just wanted to show sort of like an alternative to like that whole religious fear thing. The opposite of religious fear is love, and it's trust in yourself, and belief in yourself, and love in yourself. And I talked about Martin Luther King, and I think it's really I think it would be relevant for me to read this. So I was listening to some of his speeches, and there was one speech that was absolutely amazing. So I'm just gonna read a portion from it. So here's what it says. I remember when I was growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, I had to go to high school on the other side of town. At that time, it was the only high school for Negroes in the whole city of Atlanta, the Booker T. Washington High School. When I was a student there, we had 7,000 students in that one school. I guess that's the reason I can't read too well now, because the teacher had to spend all the time getting the class in order and disciplining the class because it was so overcrowded. But anyway, we had to pass by all of these schools, white schools, to get to the Booker Washington High School. And I had to ride the bus from home every morning to the other side of town. And fortunately, I had parents who taught me from the very beginning that I was somebody and that I should never feel inferior. They taught all of us that we should feel that we are as good as any other children. And I remember day after day getting on that bus. It was a segregated bus. Negroes had to sit in the back. And often we had to stand over empty seats because the seats up at the front, were reserved for whites only. And I started getting on that bus, going across town. And every time I got on the bus, even though I found myself having to take my body back to the back of the bus, I always left my mind on the front seat. And I said to myself, one of these days, I'm going to put my body up there where my mind is. And I'm just going to stop here and say that when I was a kid and we were singing, and I was just singing for hours and hours, and I would look in the audience, and I would look at all the kids in the audience, all the little girls, and I would think, and I would wonder what it was like to be a normal person, and to be somebody that didn't have to go singing like this, and to have parents who supported them, and to go to school and to learn and not get yelled at if ever we expressed that we wanted to go to school. And I always dreamed of one day being a normal person, just like that. And I have to say that I thank God every day I wake up, and I'm so grateful that I am a normal person. And I always was a normal person, but back then it was just, we were basically just slaves that had no life of our own. But my mind, mom and dad and the family, they definitely broke me many times, but there was always something in my mind that kept me sane. And it was always a little spark inside of me, and one day something ignited that spark. But I'll go into that another time. What I really just want to connect with people who maybe didn't have as much of an extreme upbringing as I did, but they can relate to growing up in either a strict household or a really abusive household, or a household that was very, very religious to the point of being obnoxious. So, and really growing up with indoctrination and feeling like you don't want to deal with this, So, no, you know what it is? It's really, you want to feel like you're a valid person, like that you exist and you're a valid person without all the religious stuff. If you strip all the religious stuff away, who are you? Do you trust yourself enough that you really believe that you have value and are valid even if you strip all the religious shit away? And you really have to have balls, and you really have to have guts to call it shit. And I really believe that in some cases, you're really not going to be able to push through to the other side of that indoctrination and that brainwashing unless I think one of the phases is anger. One of the phases is really seeing it for what it is, for real, and not backing down, and really just wanting to know the truth. So now this is the last part of his speech. So he says, "Now this is all I'm saying this morning, that we must feel that we count, that we belong, that we are persons, that we are children of the living God. And it means that we go down in our soul and find that somebodyness. And we must never again be ashamed of ourselves. We must never be ashamed of our heritage. We must not be ashamed of the color of our skin. Black is as beautiful as any color, and we must believe it. And so every black person in this country must rise up and say, I'm somebody. I have a rich, proud, and noble history, however painful and exploited it has been. I am black, but I am black and beautiful." So that was Martin Luther King Jr., April 26th, 1967, Cleveland speech. It's a very beautiful speech, and I would just really recommend that you go listen to it on YouTube. No matter what the color of your skin is, if you're black, white, or whatever, I don't care. It's just a beautiful speech, and it really makes you really think about that somebodyness, that every single person on this planet has that somebodyness. and you may have had that somebodyness beaten out of, tried to be beaten out of you, tried to be lectured out of you, you have tried to be squashed, and you've tried to have that somebodyness squashed out of you. You can't remove yourself from your somebodyness. You really do matter, and your voice matters. Your voice matters without the sugar coating of religion, without the coating of anything, just as is. And I wish that I had known that, and I wish that I had believed that so long ago. And I just always let people put me in my place, so to speak. And I was always looking for somebody to be victimized too, because I grew up as so much of a victim. So I was just constantly looking for that victim. I constantly had that victim mentality, and it's still something that I fight against. And my aggressors and my victimizers are still to this day trying to put me back in that place, trying to put me back in that box. But I will never be put back there, and you should never be put back there either. So I really, really want to hear from you. Please comment on this video if you feel like this has helped you in any way. I just really hope that it has helped you. So please reach out. Let me know what you thought about this video, and I'm gonna try to do more videos like this. So yeah, I will talk to you soon. Bye.